this. Not the Democrats, not the Republicans, not anybody who's an ordinary person who isn't part of the problem. Now, there's a lot of people who are part of the problem. Upton Sinclair once said, it's very hard to get a man to see something if his salary depends on not seeing it. And what many people can't see, and what we have to make them see if we want to save this country, is that America has a cancer, and the cancer is government, and the cure is to get back to the Constitution.
Yeah!
Yeah!
There are three themes that I am pushing in this campaign, which are good bipartisan themes, and which you can sell to anyone who isn't part of the problem. The first theme is decentralization. We have a government that is out of control. It has taken over more than half of Oregon and decided to burn it down and rip up its roads and let it fester and rot and burn and fill with beetles. These are not the actions of a good neighbor, and these are actions we must put an end to.
Yeah.
And as an Attorney General, it would be my privilege to defend the state of Oregon and lead the state of Oregon in asserting its police powers to protect the health and safety of its citizens by challenging the federal government. I live for the day when we elect a bunch of representatives and county commissioners who have the courage to pass ordinances and statutes that say, if you're going to allow hazardous conditions to build up in your forests, we're going to go in there and we're going to cut for you and clean it up, and if there's anything left over after we sell what we get, maybe we'll give it to you and maybe not. We'll work out those legalities later. And what will happen? We'll have a standoff, because as Frederick Douglass once said, power concedes nothing without a struggle. It never has and it never will. And we need leaders who will struggle against the federal government and recover Oregon's sovereignty and set Oregon free to manage its own resources and develop freedom and prosperity. Understand that prosperity in Oregon comes from natural resources, you can sell decentralization in the following manner. Every school child could tell you that when you have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 agencies in charge of the same thing, nothing useful happens. Any 5-year-old could tell you, anyone who's ever watched a detective movie, the police are working on the crime and in comes the federal guy. This is my jurisdiction. No, this is your jurisdiction. They sit there talking to each other. And we now have agency after agency writing complicated plans and having inter-organizational meetings and the 5-agency meetings and the 7-agency meetings and paper and paper and paper and nobody actually getting out there and doing anything the citizens want. And citizens know this. Standing for decentralization is standing for liberty, and this is a proposition you can sell to anyone. A good government proposition. How about simplification? How about the notion that we have mindless complexity, which is producing red tape upon red tape upon red tape that is strangling our businesses? You can't do anything in this state without getting 50 pages of single-spaced instructions from some agency setting up rules that no one can meet. If I were looking into your private lives and your business lives, for any one of you, I could dig in there and I could find that somewhere you've already violated subsection 456 QI little 1A sub 2.
That's me!
An A sub 2 violation. And what happens? What happens is we become afraid of the government. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. The government's supposed to be afraid of us. When the government's afraid of us, we have liberty. Another theme, accountability. How many people here are sick of reading in the Oregonian about how some agency has just gone out and blown $100 million on something that for some reason just didn't work at all? You know, whether it's computerizing the DMV, or maybe building a bridge across the Columbia River. Let's spend $108 million, or $140 million, or $150 million, and we get to the end, and what do we have? A bridge that's 100 feet, 50 feet shorter than all the other ones, and it doesn't work for some reason, and then we've got to start all over again, because who cares? We'll just stick it to the taxpayers, bend over and take it again. People are sick of that, whether they're Republicans or Democrats or anybody. So, what do we need? We need accountability. We need leaders who are not part of the same corrupt, brain-dead, reactionary, liberal clique that's been running this state and is willing to challenge some of the people who are getting fat, wasting our money.
Yeah!
tack on 4% to every subcontract in the Columbia River project, and who cares if there's no contractual authorization? And nobody ever goes to jail for anything, no matter what they do, whether it's the underage boys, or the underage girls, or the subcontract padding, or the outright stealing. Nobody's held accountable. Everybody's sick of that. You can persuade even your Democrat friends that we need at least one Republican, the Attorney General, who doesn't make laws but can keep the other people honest. But we really need to get out there and elect all the Republicans. We need to elect people like Newt Bueller, who can go out there and do audits and start uncovering these things and sending me the reports so I can send them up the river. And we need to elect sink under the weight of this corrupt mess called PERS. And we need Bruce Starr, who can get out there and clean up the fact that our labor laws have become a minefield for every Oregon business. We have a great set of candidates. Let me tell you a little bit about my opponent, because I want you to understand how vulnerable she would be if anybody knew what she was really about. She says she's all about protecting the vulnerable and all about good government. Absolutely false. If you watch what people do instead of what they say, she's got a track record that smells to high heaven. As a judge, she ought to have been called Turn 'em Loose Ellen, because she repeatedly turned people loose so they could go out and kill again. She repeatedly stretched the law so far you wouldn't believe it. I'll tell you about one case. Benton County, some pervert's working in a nursing home. He's convicted of 21 counts of rape, sodomy, and forcible sexual abuse of elderly women with Alzheimer's. He's sent up the river. The case comes in front of my opponent. What does she say? It's not enough that we have the circumstantial evidence putting him there, volunteering to spend the night for no apparent reason. It's not enough that he volunteers the activity to the policeman. It's not enough that he formally confesses later. It's not enough that he makes telephone calls from the jail to his relatives admitting to them that he did it. No, there's not enough evidence. We have to turn him loose so he can walk out the back door of the jail and start working on old women again. That's the kind of decision she has made over and over again. And then, when it comes to accountability, my opponent is a corrupt puppet of the public employee unions. How do we know this? Just 2 weeks ago. You remember the case of the woman who went into the Department of Revenue with a $3 million tax return that said, oh, I'm entitled to a $2 million refund. And the government, of course, oh, all right, here's your debit card. And the only reason they caught her is because she lost the debit card twice, and the private contractor doing the debit card said, what on earth is going on here? No public employee could be trusted to do that. Turns out, yes, her tax return was flagged by the computer, and 4 separate employees missed the job. But my opponent says we're not entitled to know who they are, we're not entitled to know exactly what they did wrong, just trust us, pay no attention to the people behind the curtain, and bend over again and pay for it. That's what our current leaders are about. So, we are at a juncture where our government is out of control. We need your help this fall to put in Republicans who can clean this mess up.
Yeah!
We have the candidates to do it. We have assembled bullets of all kinds and munitions and rockets all sitting over there, and it's up to you, the ground army, to get them out and to spread the gospel of good government, because if you do that, we can win. Thank you.
Go in front of the Supreme Court of the United States and of Oregon and win? Yeah. Forgot about that, didn't he? This guy is qualified. If you don't take one of his